7:02 p.m., August 7th, Saturday, 2021. 2021. Can you believe it? Uh, Kind of wild and weird to me that we're in the year 2021, but it is what it is, apparently. And that means we go with it, we go for it. And so here we are amidst one of the most interesting twists and plot twists of life that began just shy of 2 years ago. And here we are in the midst of it. And there's going to be things that happen that we don't agree with, that we vehemently stand against. And with that comes the quandary, what can I do? And yes, many people think that the specificity is so important. Yet I would say that the contrary is true. What do you want as the grand result? Where do you begin? And for me, it begins with joy, adventure, and passion. Regardless of the craziness, I still want joy. I still want adventure. I still want passion. And it can incorporate on a smaller scale of what that means. Ken MacArthur, always good to see you, my friend. So excited to see your movie in the near future. But congratulations on that project coming to a completion. And that means the start of getting it out and making it on the radar of people to say, holy crap, I want to see that. So once one journey completes, another journey begins. So I know you're on that, and I'd be happy to see how I can help share in my community the amazingness of getting it exposed. So I'd love to see it in the near future, chat with you, and catch up. It's been a while. So always good to see you. Man, it goes back to what, 2006 since we crossed paths and have done many adventures in the meantime. I remember you coming to visit the office in Long Island shortly after I got my dream car, the Acura NSX. And you know, you're not a small man. You're tall and big, and you got in the Acura NSX. I loved that. That was fantastic. We had a good breakfast, a good talk as always, and it's always a pleasure to cross paths with you. So I hope all is well with you and yours. And that kind of circles back to, what's yours to do? What can you do? What do you want to do? Good times indeed. I remember that breakfast was pretty darn good, and the conversation was even better. So always a pleasure to cross paths. You do an awesome job, Tom. I'd love to talk again soon. Robin, I'd be open to that. Reach out, shoot me a message, and let's have a conversation. And so I served in the United States Marine Corps, and in swearing in, I took an oath to protect and defend the United States Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic. And that was in 1993 when Bill Clinton first began his office as president of the United States. And that led to, some things that are still in play today, all these years later, almost 20 years later. But that's a separate topic. The root of that is I and many others who chose to serve and protect the Constitution, always have that in the back of our mind. Like, man, we took an oath that didn't have an end date to protect and defend the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic. And I observe, and from my observations, it appears, with the walls being built around DC, that our elected officials are fearful of the citizens. And it makes me think, why would they be fearful of the citizens? And it leads to the clear understanding from my perspective is they know that if we knew what they were up to and what they were doing, we would not stand for it. We would not allow it. It would be against what their oath was and what their role is and their oath to protect and defend the Constitution as well. So, in their fear of the citizens, in my opinion, it has turned into um, a warlike scenario where the citizens are the enemy, and that's that's the way I see it. Robin Kirk says 100% correct. So, if that is true, what can we do? And there's a quote that's supposedly from Thomas Jefferson, and he says, "When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes mandatory." Now, rebellion today is different than rebellion back in Thomas Jefferson days. That doesn't mean take arms and go storm any buildings or things of that nature. I'm going to divert to the quote that the pen is mightier than the sword. The pen is mightier than the weapons. And so, in spreading the message, it hopefully connect some dots in people's mind to say, you know what, something seems off, right? That internal gut check. Like, does this feel right? Or does something feel off? And in that internal gut check, if you, like me and many others, are like, you know what, something just feels wrong. Like, I don't know what it is, but this doesn't feel right. It's more about simply having the courage to express that and help others recognize they're not alone, and also remind the masses that it's a very small amount of people that are in those elected positions. I forgot the exact number, 525, 535, something along those lines, between Congress, the House of Representatives, the elected officials and appointed officials, compared to I don't even know how many people are in the United States. I didn't do any research prior to this. I just went live and felt like riffing. So, what can you do? And so, a lot of people question, like, what's the specific activity? And I would throw out the idea that you don't need a specific activity. You would actually want to go back on the grander scale and say, I want to be happy. I want to have joy, adventure, and passion with myself on my journey and with my family, friends, and others that I'm with. And how can I do that amidst the new twists and turns and this crazy plot twist that we've all seen in the last couple of years? There's been infringements on that, of what we can do, what we can't do. How can I improvise, adapt, and overcome to still be happy, to still have joy, adventure, and passion? And so for me, I just go about living my life. I trust my discernment. I use my discernment to make sure I'm not putting myself or others near me in any danger. And in doing so, I have fun. I have joy. I have adventure. I have passion. You know, and prior to a couple years ago, it's like, so what? Big deal. But some of the things that bring me joy, adventure, and passion may go against what the masses would expect or desire. And that's okay. They're not me, they're not my family, and they're not running the show. Yet, in many cases, it appears they're trying to. And you know what? I'll improvise, adapt, and overcome accordingly. So, all I wish for those in my sphere is that they, whatever words encapsulate how they want to live, they live it. For me, it's joy, adventure, and passion. For you, it may be some other words that summarize how you roll, how you operate. And the deal is, as long as you're not harming, meaning physical harming, other citizens, do it. Doesn't bother me at all. That's race, that's religion, that's sexual preference, that's, you name it, doesn't bother me as long as it's not harming other citizens. I'm good. Like, go do it. Have at it. And I guess I could be categorized as a constitutionalist. And what that means is, the kind of like Ron Paul, the government is way beyond, like, the Constitution was here, the government is now here. It's, and not even triple, quadruple, it's too small. That's too small of what the reality is of them overstepping their boundaries of what they're authorized to do per the Constitution. And it sounds, harsh because we're used to it for so many years and decades and generations, the government overstepping. Like, whoa, well, how could we chop off that whole section, that whole division? I mean, that's how it's always been. Not always, but within the last few generations, it has been. Ron Paul is great. Yeah, Ron Paul was the man. And Ron Paul kind of was ahead of the curve in getting censored. Ron Paul had huge rallies and they were not shown on TV because it went against the agenda. And so that's another conversation, the whole media and all the platforms. Not only are they extensions of the government thanks to the Patriot Act, they can't share how and what they're doing for the government thanks to the Patriot Act. And it's clear as day to those who know and those who see that all of those billion and trillion dollar companies are extensions of the government, which leads to a convenient excuse from the government to say, hey, that's a corporation that we can't tell them what to do, although they're always telling them what to do because of that embedded agreement that they have, that they are literal extensions of the U.S. government, to include the media, to include the platforms. But that's what it is. And the question is, how do we get back to bringing this country under the Constitution? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm excited for that to occur. And that leads to another thing, like in reaching success. I've been a national bicycle freestyle champion. I've been the #1 honor man from boot camp in the United States Marine Corps boot camp. And then went on to get 3 meritorious promotions in 4 years of active duty. I've been the #1 salesperson in multiple corporate sales organizations. I've been able to produce ridiculously amazing results online with many business partners and projects that I've been able to work on. And from that, it simply boils back to, I didn't know the accolades and the awards were there. I just did what was mine to do each and every day. And with that commitment and consistency to do it, I'm getting the awards. I'm winning, here's the national championship. Here's the #1 in this organization as a salesperson. Here's, results. So I didn't go into it desiring those accolades. Those were a byproduct of me being willing to stick with my commitment, stick with it with a consistent, dedicated fashion. And lo and behold, I separated myself from everyone else. Robin Kirk, you've been national marketing mankini man. Yes, that too. I had no idea that would be such a fun mark in the history of the internet marketing world. It was an opportunity that I created, I seized, and stepped out of my comfort zone to do it. And, it's history. It's pretty cool. So that leads us to here and now. What can I do? What can you do? And the only thing I can, bring it back to is gain clarity on, what? I just want to spread the message. I just want to open people's eyes and ears and let them know they're not the only one. They're not the only one with their spidey sense tingling, being like, something just doesn't feel right. Because it doesn't. Something doesn't feel right. And in that conversation, ideas, actions can be formed that can let the establishment know no more. We're done. That clown train is stopped. We see it for what it is. It's totally unnecessary and it's no longer needed. Thank you very much. And when the people express themselves about understanding what's happening and things just don't feel right, the elected officials have elections. And when enough people put their words, the pen is more powerful than the sword. When they put their words to those elected officials, you'll watch them turn very quickly. We see them turn, what do they call it, flip-flopping? We see them flip-flop. I don't care which side, Democrat, Republican, they flip-flop based on them getting the data from what their market wants. And if the market stands firm together, it says enough of this bullshit, watch how quickly the bullshit stops. If the market folds and continues to play along with the bullshit will continue. It's up to us to express ourselves to those people who are in those roles, and it's time to hold them accountable. It's time for their constituents, it's time for their citizens in their areas to hold them accountable. Your track record sucks. You say one thing and you do another. We don't tolerate that. We want integrity. We want honesty. We want people who will stand firm for what the people want. And you're not that. So you got to go. And in my life, I had my grandparents who told me from a young age that politicians are, the worst. Like politicians are the slippery slope of, the road to good intentions. And I think in other families sharing that, a lot of good people stayed out of politics, which meant it's been taken over by the liars, the scammers, the people that we see. And I hope this crosses paths with some elected officials, because we see you. We see the lies. We see the scams. We see your net worth before you came into office, and your net worth in the middle of your office, and your net worth when you leave office. And we can do the math and recognize that with the pay that you receive, there's no way that you could have that type of growth in net worth without something shady happen. Just how it is. So we see what's happening to a degree. If we saw it all, we would overthrow this in a second. You know that. And it's kind of like an analogy that I heard. Like, I have some friends that were on the TV shows, the reality TV shows, and they shared how a lot of it's scripted, a lot of it's totally made up just to create drama. And I have a feeling if we went behind the scenes in government and in the media especially, you would see how so much of that is just absolutely fabricated and made up to create fear, to create division, which creates attention, which creates revenue for them. The media companies specifically, they are eyeball driven. They have to have the rubberneck syndrome. They have to have a disaster that gets people's attention to create more revenue. Just how it works. So they will. And what most people don't understand is the news media actually creates false scenarios that they feel will get the most eyeballs. And, there was a movie. I highly recommend you watch the movie called Wag the Dog. And it's from years ago, but it shows the deception and the lengths and the depths that they will go to make distractions occur, to absolutely fabricate entire situations, to create the rubberneck scenario, to get people's attention. And that's one example from a long time ago. And guess what? It's gotten better, way better since then. Robin Kirk, I've heard the media legally became classified as entertainment, so that it is how they get away with everything. Anything. Yes. Yes. Well, there was the Smith-Mundt Act. I think that might be it. The Smith-Mundt Act, or something with Mundt in it, M-U-N-D-T, that was in place to prevent the media from creating and using propaganda against U.S. citizens. And during the Obama administration, that was rescinded, and it's been open game. They've been able, it's literally fiction. Since the Obama administration, they can create fiction legally. Fiction means made up. They can just create a scenario, post it out as real legally. It's crazy. It's insane. Yet most people are unaware, and most people would even state, well, they wouldn't go that far. They wouldn't say that. They wouldn't do that. It's open game. There's no limits. Fiction. And it's like, it's literally it's like you believing that Seinfeld was real, that Friends was real, that MASH was real. Any sitcom, you would watch it and think that it's real. That's what the media is. So we got that going for us, which is great. That makes sense. This is how they have created things under emergency measures as to get away with things. Well, it definitely gets the eyeballs, it gets attention, creates revenue, creates profits, and it's legal. And the thing that's also missing is CIA's influence in the media. And so most people aren't aware of that either. The media companies, it's really confusing nowadays because the government is so infiltrated in media, in all of the corporations due to the Patriot Act, and those corporations can't share what's being done, what's not being done, how it's being done, etc. It's illegal. And there's been examples of companies that wanted to expose that, and there's heavy penalties for them to expose it, so they don't. And if you go back to the CIA's influence, they own a lot of different companies, and that's the shell game. Like, it's because it's not CIA headquarters, right? They own this company, they own this company, they own this company. An example that we all can remember is from the Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden worked for NSA, but it wasn't Edward Snowden hired and working for NSA. It was Edward Snowden working for, at that one time, Dell and many other companies. Dell. Yet he was clearly working for the NSA. So it's a shell game to protect all this. And there are corporations that make it hard to trail it back to the CIA, but Edward Snowden's pretty clear. I think we all remember when he exposed, the level of surveillance on the enemy of the state, which is the civilians. And he was hired and employed by Dell, yet everyone knows he was working for the NSA. That's one example that I think solidifies it for everybody. So they play that shell game. So Edward Snowden didn't work directly for the NSA. He worked for the shell, or he worked for Dell, which protected that connection. And that's how it all works. So in the movie industry, in the TV industry, a lot of the movies and a lot of the TV programs are influenced by the CIA, but it's through another company. And generally, it's another company, another company, another company. It's a really hard process to track back. And many people deny that the CIA helps get the TV shows, the news anchors, their scripts. Like, all television is not journalism nowadays with the news. It's script readers, period. They read the scripts. Well, who provides the scripts? Yeah, it's a good question to look into. Literally like a World Wide Web. Yes, they punished this. They punished the speaking truth. Punished him speaking the truth. Oh yeah. And even with Trump, they didn't take away those incredible charges that were placed on him. So there's more to that story. Um, and anyhow, through all this, knowing that it's going on is one thing. Continuing to live your life unafraid is another. I don't give a shit. I live my life. I do what I feel is mine to do. I lead it by, the goal of having fun, making the most of my life. Make today great is my statement. But also, I seek joy, adventure, and passion in all I do. And so just doing what you feel is yours to do is step one. And then step two is sharing it with others to help open their eyes about what's happening. And when enough people open their eyes and communicate to those elected officials, they will recognize, crap, they're onto us. But there's still going to be people that will follow every directive that comes out. That's the process. SW4. Some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. So me, all I do is lead my life. Hopefully it inspires others to lead their lives. And what's the next step? Is to draft a letter to the people in your area and say, the gig is up. Either follow the Constitution, protect the Constitution, and stop attacking U.S. citizens as enemies of the state, or we're going to remove you. They want to keep that power. And when they recognize enough people won't allow them to keep that power, they will adjust. They will modify their course of action and their plans, and they will recognize the gig is up. Will they try to break through the border and go back to their other ways? Of course, we got to keep them in check, keep them in line. They're really good at making those big empty promises, and also really good at breaking them and going through with the agendas that the people with the money want pushed through. I think we've all seen through that. Where do you think the marketing industry is heading in all this? You think there's another interruption product on the horizon, such as the 7-figure code? I can imagine there's some things in works. I can imagine there's some people out there that see where the puck is going, and we'll capitalize on that. I don't know of any that are in the works right now, but I will say this. It's time to improvise, adapt, and overcome. It's time to enter the conversation in your prospects' minds, and that is uncertainty. That is lack of clarity of what's happening and what's going to happen a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, and how to give them a return, some certainty, some feeling of inside information that helps put them at ease and helps give them some additional certainty to continue to take the actions. Because when uncertainty creeps in at the level that we're experiencing right now, it does hinder a lot of people's progress because they're not sure about what's going to happen next week, next month. And so if you can be that person who helps give them certainty, that gives them the grounded foundation to begin and continue on the path to be that creator that they are capable of being. With uncertainty, it's difficult to continue to be that creator. So there's going to be some, I imagine many, people that recognize the power of that quote from, I think it's attributed to Wayne Gretzky. You know, the key to his success was skating to where the puck was going. Well, we're in new territory. The puck ain't never been here since I've been alive, 48 years old. And I think it's been over, close to 100 years since it was around. So it's been generational since the puck has been where it is and where it's going. And now the key is, how can you share a vision with your people that gives them some certainty and a course of action that they feel is making a difference for themselves, their family, and the future generations. So I and many others took the oath to defend and protect the Constitution against enemies foreign and domestic. And I've shared this elsewhere, but I'll share it here. We failed. The Constitution's gone. Clear as day. Thanks to NDAA. No right to a speedy trial. No right to sharing why you're being held. And torture for U.S. citizens. Any of us could be taken, not tell the real reason why we're being held other than domestic terrorists, could be held indefinitely without a speedy trial. No trial, actually. If they feel doesn't warrant one, you're held indefinitely. And torture for American citizens. That's currently in place. Take a look at the January 6 people who were let into the building, and people are still held. And they're able to be held indefinitely legally, which goes against the Constitution. The Patriot Act has allowed the country, the U.S. government, to infiltrate any and all of the huge companies. And now they're working for the government. And it's an interesting dynamic. But this isn't meant to bring people down. I see Robin's crying emoji. It's an interesting time in history, to say the least. But what I also know is we are resilient, we are perseverant, and we will hopefully not allow tyranny to win. So what does that mean? That means drafting letters, and maybe I or someone else comes up with a standard letter that can be modified that would be able to be sent to the elected officials, letting them know that we want them to uphold their oath to protect the Constitution and also uphold their word. We're tired of the empty talk followed with no action. And the only actions that occur are against what their talk was and more towards tyranny. And I don't know. For me, I still have peace. In my near-death experiences, the one, namely walking towards the bright white light and saying, stop, this isn't how it's supposed to end. I know you had more for me to accomplish. Send me back. I know that I'm immune to death until it's my time. So I'm not fearful of death. When it's my time, it's my time. I'm doing my best to live a lengthy life, but when it's my time, it's my time. And yeah, the joy of the Lord is our strength. Robin Kirk, 100%. So I have many conversations with God each day, and God says, do you trust me? So when I have fear, when I have worry, when I have doubt, I have that conversation in my mind with God. God asks me, do you trust me? And I say, yeah, because look, I'm human. And if I asked my children, do you trust me? They would say yes. Well, our God in heaven, more trustworthy than me. When he asks me if I trust him, I say, yeah. Don't quite understand. Now, the other thing is to look back on history, look back in the Bible, and if you look, his plan, from our perspective, doesn't make any sense many times, but it works. So I don't get how and why certain things are in the place that they are, but I trust the plan. Now, I also trust to do what's on my heart to do. I feel God speaks to us on our hearts. So I will speak, I will think, I will act accordingly to what I feel is on my heart. And in doing so, I know all works out well. Prayer, Lord, I believe, but help me with my unbelief. That's right. I mean, geez, what did it say? Someone with the faith the size of a mustard seed can tell this mountain to move from here to there. So I definitely don't have the faith of mustard seed. Patrick Buckley, what's up? Marine in the house. So good to see you here. Hi, Tom. When will enough be enough? That's a great question. I don't know what that threshold is. You and I and many others who served recognize that we took the oath to protect and defend the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic. And we also recognize the empty oath that many of these elected officials took and immediately fattened their pockets. So when will enough be enough? That's a very good question. There will be a tipping point. There will be something that is put into place where the people are like, hell no. No. And that's all it takes. No. No. That ain't happening. And so, in a weird way, I kind of want them, the government, to push and be cocky and think that everybody's going to fold to whatever they say. Because that, in my opinion, will bring us to that tipping point where people are like, oh, hell no, that ain't happening. Matter of fact, you stepped over the line, and now it's time to do some investigation. Now it's time to hold some people accountable. And that's my dream. That's my hope. And they are getting cocky. They are feeling untouchable. They are feeling that the citizens will do whatever we say. I literally picture meetings of them like, well, if we say that, won't they do this? No, look, they follow everything we say. And the history shows we pretty much do, sadly. But I think they're going to get so cocky and push limitations so far that the American citizens will be, hell no, that ain't happening. And that's all it takes. Then people come together, both sides of the party, all sides of religion. Doesn't matter any of the differences of the divide and conquer plan at that point. Game's over. And at that point, now it's like, look, not only did you cross a line, now we're doing some investigations. Now we're going to see all the dirt that's been happening. And when that happens, when the dirt is exposed, that's a whole nother game. The dirt, we couldn't even handle what's truly going on. Like, we would think, the wildest quote unquote conspiracy theory doesn't come close to what's happening. And that's why they're so fearful. They know if the people knew what we were doing, they wouldn't stand for it. And there will come a time when we do know what they're doing and we won't stand for it. And finally, both sides, Democrat, Republican, will be held accountable. That's my dream. Enough's enough. I stand for liberty. I stand for justice. And I'm excited to see how this all turns out. Yeah, it's going to be fun. But anyhow, I just wanted to let y'all know you're not alone. Your spidey senses are right. Stuff doesn't feel right because it's not right. It hasn't been right for a long time. Robin says, Tom, you make a great difference to many people's lives. We appreciate you. Well, thank you. I appreciate you. Appreciate your kind words. So one step, one day at a time. The only suggestion I can give is in our families. Like, think about this. Like, I'm a Marine, Patrick's a Marine, Robin, I think, served. The deal is, what about the kids? How much is this impacting them? And sure, we're having conversations with them, but what the heck? If this is impacting us with the experience that we have, the emotional intelligence that we have, imagine what this is doing to the kids. This is huge child abuse, emotional child abuse. So when we're in our homes and in our families, we have to live our lives. Find that joy. Find that peace. Find that happiness amidst all this. And allow them to recognize this too shall pass. We're in a weird portion of humanity. This will pass. And in the meantime, I'm going to live my life. And encourage your children to live their lives. And have those talks. What are they feeling? How are they feeling? What's happening? What's the elements that are getting under their skin? And help empower them to recognize they don't have to fold to tyranny. The United States wasn't founded on tyranny. It was founded on freedom. And it's taken a 180-degree turn in the last couple of years. But it's still the land of the free for those who are brave enough. You know, it's not the home of the brave, land of the free, whatever, land of the free, home of the brave. Less of the brave and less of the free. But you can still live your life bravely and freely. That's all it takes. Small percentage of people willing to say, hell no. Nope. As for me and my family, no thanks. We pass. It's amazing how it all works out. Stay strong. Know that this too shall pass. Shane Hunter. Howdy, Tom. What's up, Shane? Good to see you. And just take one moment, one step, one day at a time, and do what you feel is yours to do. And in doing that, some will like it, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. Someone's waiting is someone who also feels from their spidey sense something ain't right. And you, in your courageous expansion of this, is going to help them feel they're not alone. Help them understand, hey, we are a majority who stand for freedom, who stand for liberty, not tyranny. And that's it. And the other thing, on any journey to success or any journey like this, who knows how the hell it's going to turn out? But one step and one day at a time, doing what you feel is yours to do, you know, in improvising, adapting, overcoming as the landscape modifies and changes, we'll reach the pinnacle. It'll be fun to witness. It'll be fun to be a part of. And here we are. Let's do it. So Matthew Adams, Semper Fi, brother. Hey, Semper Fi. You've always had a way of making sense and leading others. Well, I appreciate that. It's been a while. Man, the Marine Corps days, what the heck? 93 to 96. I got out December 96, 93 to 97. But holy crap, a lot. It's like a while ago, but it's still a big part of who I am and who we all are. So I appreciate those kind words. And hey, look, I live a life of joy, adventure, and passion. Guess what? There's going to be some adventure and passion coming up soon. Have the courage to follow what you feel is on your heart. To think, say, and do the things that you know are yours to think, say, and do. And in doing so, it will lead others to recognize, I'm not the only one who feels something's off. This ain't right. Feels like a Twilight Zone episode or a Black Mirror episode. Definitely does. Well, we can come out as the heroes in this. And the pen is mightier than the sword. The heroes, without having to, it's a fool's game to try the other route. The only way is through opening other people's eyes and having action taken by the masses who recognize this ain't right. The U.S. is not about tyranny. The U.S. is about freedom and liberty and the Constitution of the United States of America. Let's get back to that and watch how quickly all the nonsense goes away. Will it be simple? No. This is a multi-trillion-dollar business. Fraudulent, but still a multi-trillion-dollar business. So let's expose it for what it is. Let's hold true to what the United States was founded upon, the United States Constitution. And let's hold our government and our elected officials to following it. There's a lot that can happen, but it begins with just saying no. Enough's enough. Not doing it. All right. So hopefully this was helpful. It's a little bit of inspiration for those who recognize something ain't right. Well, there's a war, and tyranny is the enemy. Let's stand tall for liberty, stand tall for freedom, and do what we feel is ours to do. I wish all you well. God bless you. Talk with you soon. Bye for now.